Hello, and this time you should be hearing me. So what I was saying actually was the SH1C happens, and hopefully you're still with me and I've not lost you, because the 30 seconds is when a first impression is made, and actually we've been going for 4 minutes and it didn't quite work the way it wanted to. Right, so today is all about how to overcome stuff when it happens, and you've just seen that the stuff has happened with me, and we've had a few technical issues today, which hopefully I've now sorted out. So regularly check in with the comments on yes when I'm asking for feedback, because today what I want to do is take you through the whole thing around this stuff happening and what to do with it when it happens, aka the philosophy, if you like. So what I want to talk about today is where we're going with this, and what I'm taking this from. It's from the Pathfinder, which is something I use with the all group that I have on a monthly basis, where I get together with the guys who've actually invested in the Pathfinder system. Now, before we start, I want to talk about my mission, which is to inspire, educate and motivate 1 million entrepreneurs and veteran business owners to achieve the dreams, goals and aspirations that they deserve. And how do I do this? Well, one of the ways I do it is that I'm helping them discover the many elements of SH1T happening and the philosophy behind it. So today's learning outcomes, right? Because we always start with where you are now and where you want to get to. And let's just take it that you've discovered that the stuff happens in life, right? So I want to be talking about the 5 A's of transformation, the 4 stages of trauma, the 7 stages to defeat dream stealers. And interestingly enough, when I talked about dream stealers in the past, someone wanted to know exactly what I meant. So we'll be going into more about what a dream stealer is, how they work, how they think, how they operate, and the effect that they want to have on people that they come into contact with. Going to be talking about joeteams.com, the Pathfinder Ultimate Success System, and there's a special offer on that, because guess what? Right, by the way, I'm not selling anything. I want to show you what I've created from my experience, and if you want to invest in it, great, and if you don't, that's also great, because at the end of this presentation I've got a free gift for you, which totally no obligation whatsoever, and when you use it, it can really help you get better results in your career, business life, or life in general. So, and from today, the learning outcome is when you put effort in and you take action, you get great results. And then we're going to look at how you can use the model that we've created for yourself to get you where you want to be. Okay, so let's just start with some simple stuff, because I want to find out. Remember, I'm throughout this presentation, I'm going to be talking about where you are now and where you want to get to, if that makes sense. So to do that, what I want you to ask yourself, consider these questions. Where are you now in your business, in your life generally? If you want to jot it down, please. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to check in on something. So where are you now in your business? Are you achieving everything that you want to achieve? Have you not quite got there yet? And next, where do you want to get to? So you've established where you are now in your business, or you're processing it. Where do you want to get to? What's acceptable for you, and what do you want to get once you've reached that acceptable level? How do you intend to get there? Think about that for a second. How do you intend to get there? And next, when do you plan to arrive? And you'll see that these are all structured questions to help you with the outcome, achieve the outcome that you want to achieve. And then what is your biggest driver? Is it your family? Is it that you want to make loads of money? Is it that you want to have the power to do what you want when you want? What's your biggest driver? Is it your friends as well? You might want to help your friends, employ them, get them to be part of your dream where you can build it together. So what's your biggest driver? And who are you doing it for? Think about this for a minute, because that's a big question. Who are you doing it for? And next, if there were no limits, absolutely no limits to what you could do, no cash limits, no physical limits, no emotional limits, no limits whatsoever, what would you want to achieve? What would be the real driver? So now that you've considered those, what I want you to now look at is, how should your successful day start? And how does it normally start? And how should it start? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you along a little bit with this next bit. One of the first things that we learned in the military, and I'll go into a little bit more about my military career briefly, and explain why 25 years is significant today for me, the 30th of October. And if you Google Admiral William H. McRaven, you will find a video. He was SEAL. The SEALs are special forces in the American military, and just the same as we learned, and when I say we, the guys that I was in the military with, learned about, the first thing we learned in the military was make your bed. And this was similar to the bed that I had to make, right? And it had to be hospital corners, just so, with all the kit laid out, or the books that you can see. Now, if you watch that, you will see exactly what I mean. And my story, briefly, is that you'll see on the top left, that's the Royal Engineers EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and on the right, it's the SAS Dagger. Now, I never actually was successful to get in, because you'll see on the bottom left that something stopped me. Everything was going great, and then on the 30th of October 1999, something happened to me which lifted me off my feet, gale force wind, threw me nearly 400 feet down the mountain ravine, and the doctor told me, "Mr. O'Connor, you've broken your neck, C5 is shattered, C6 is broken." And at that time, right, that happened 25 years ago actually. The 30th of October was Saturday, so it was last Saturday, was the actual 25 years. But so now you'd be seeing me lying in bed, looking just like that, paralysed, with a broken neck. And at that time, I was absolutely devastated. I didn't really know what was going on. I had a 4-year-old son. I was married with my wife, carrying our second son. And from 1999 to now, you'll see on the bottom right that there is the picture of, it's a plan, right, with 23 lodges and a transformation centre. You can just about make it out. The white oblong is the transformation centre, and when you play this on replay and you look at it again, you can make it out and you can zoom in, right? So this was a time in my life where I was feeling pretty low, and I can tell you that the stuff happens was certainly happening in my life. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything about stuff happening. I've got a bit of experience, and I know that many of you who are joining me today have said that you want to learn all about this and how you can overcome stuff, which is what I want to share with you today. And from that point, I made it my mission to actually learn how to work with the mind, or how to overcome strategies. And you'll see, actually, when that happened 25 years ago, I was supposed to be doing the New York Marathon the week after, in November. And that collection of photos shows me achieving my accredited master coach and doing all sorts of wonderful things with the body, with a full catalepsy across the chairs. And that was like a board. My body was a board because of the way that I programmed my mind. And on the bottom right, you'll see that I did the marathon 15 years later. Now, I'm telling you this not to impress you so much as to impress upon you that even when stuff happens, you have a responsibility to yourself to learn how to get over it, because it's much better doing that, getting over it. Which then got me to thinking, how can I best serve individuals to help them with my mission to achieve the dreams, goals and aspirations they deserve? And what I developed was the hub site, which is joeteams.com. And the joeteams.com, it doesn't show very clearly there. The joeteams.com is the ability to help yourself totally get lots of information and resources. So now you can see, and that's what I like about live broadcasts, because it shows you exactly what can go well and what can go not so well. So the joeteams.com is a website that has lots of stuff, lots of free resources, as well as resources that you can actually contribute to and find out more information about. So let's have a look now at cause and effect. The cause versus effect, or what I put as reasons and excuses. And why do I call it reasons and excuses? Well, I remember once talking to a student and they said, well, how come you didn't make it to study today? I said, well, the alarm didn't go off. So, and how did that start? Well, if the alarm doesn't go off, then I can't be on time. And I thought, right, okay. So I said, well, what else? He said, well, that's like reasons and an excuse. Or it's an excuse, isn't it? He says, no, it's not an excuse. I said, well, what is it then? He says, I've got a very good reason. The alarm didn't go off. And you see, the thing is that at the end of the day, the alarm didn't go off for a reason, because he didn't set it right. And put it for another way, consider a young executive, right? A young executive being caught in a torrential rain, and I want to demonstrate better what I just said. And a torrential downpour, and he gets absolutely soaked. He's late home from work. He moans and blames everything on everyone else, and he's talking to his partner when he gets home. And it's everyone else's fault, right, that he got caught in the downpour. And he blames everyone except himself. And the way he viewed the situation made him feel bitter, because it wasn't his fault. What sort of situation have you been in where you actually used that yourself? So when have you been in a situation where you used that yourself? Now, whereas he could have chosen, right, for the experience to act as a lesson for him, he could have said, right, okay, so in future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the weather report in the morning, and I'm going to take heed. And if it says it's going to be raining, well, then I'll take an umbrella with me, and I'll take more care. Because had he have done that, he may have been caught in the torrential downpour, but he wouldn't have got so wet. In fact, he may not have even got wet at all if he'd dressed correctly. Is this making sense, yes or no? So, how can cause and effect influence your life? How do you think it can influence your life? What difference do you think it could make to you if you choose to look at the cause? The cause is that he didn't listen to the weather report, and the effect of that was he got absolutely soaking wet. What situation have you been in where you get the same sort of result because maybe you're not listening as well as you could do? So thank you, Tom. Life just keeps happening. Yeah, thank you very much. It does. Right, so now let's have a look at something else. Let's have a look at another situation. Lena had always wanted a job as a graphic designer in a small hometown. She'd loved it. But when her company shut down, she felt like she'd had the rug pulled out from under her. And by the way, if I'm looking away from the screen occasionally, it's because I'm just checking my notes because I've got a lot to go through and I've got limited time. And so she had to move to a city to find work. And the thought filled her with angst, right? And the angst, what if she couldn't fit in? What if the city was too fast paced for her? And she failed. The first few weeks were rough. You know, she was really left out. And she was overwhelmed by the sea of people, by the demands on a new job. She missed the comfort and familiarity of her old life. Despite her worries, she knew she had to take a chance. She decided to adopt a new mindset instead of fearing the unknown. And she thought, I've got to embrace it. So she set small goals for herself, like trying new coffee shops, meeting colleagues outside of work, and exploring the city bit by bit. As she adapted, Lena found herself discovering things that she could enjoy. She joined a weekend art class where she met other artists who shared her passion. At work, she began to find a rhythm, taking on projects that challenged her creativity. She realised that while her life was different now, it wasn't necessarily worse. It was just full of new opportunities. Lena began to accentuate her new strengths. She started volunteering to lead design teams and put herself forward to innovative projects that no one else dared to try. She became known for her unique ideas and her confidence grew. She still had moments of doubt though. Has that ever happened to you where you're in a situation where you have moments of doubt? But now she faced them with a sense of purpose. You know, those moments of doubt, because she had purpose, she really knew what she was doing. Instead of seeing her future as a barrier and seeing her fear as a barrier, she used it as a fuel to push herself forward. Eventually, Lena reached a point of acceptance. She accepted that her life in the city was different than what she imagined, but it was fulfilling in ways that she hadn't expected. She accepted that change was inevitable, and while it could be scary, because life is sometimes, isn't it? It was also a chance for growth. Her past life was a cherished chapter, but a new life was one she was proud of. Lena realised that the angst she once felt was just a part of her journey, leading to her adapt and grow to a new, stronger by accentuating her strengths and accept the changes in her life, making her more confident. So let's have a look now at the actual process that she went through, shall we? So the 5 A's that were weaved into that metaphor that I gave you. And by the way, give me a comment if this is making sense to you. Just give me a comment in the chat, and then I can see. Okay, so how to transform fear into success and failure into transformation. Thank you for that comment. So let's consider the 5 A's of transformation. Angst, right? With angst, feeling of angst can create a sense of anxiety, uncertainty that overwhelms you. and making it difficult to take on further action. If you feel angst about, say a big job interview, for instance, you might worry about failing, being judged, or even worse, making a mistake. Oh no, a mistake. These feelings could become so intense that they avoid preparing for the interview or even decide not to go at all, right? Which could be missing out on a massive opportunity. So let's have a look at the next one that we weaved in. Adopt. By adopting a positive attitude, right? This can be a powerful way to combat even the most prevalent angst, because it helps you shift your mindset from fear and uncertainty to possibility and resilience. Here's how it works, right? Reframing your thoughts. Let's have a think about reframing your thoughts. You know what goes on in your head? A positive attitude encourages you to reframe negative or anxious thoughts instead of focusing on potential failure. Does that make sense? You might tell yourself, this is a chance to learn and grow, which reduces the power of angst and helps you see challenges as opportunities. And building confidence by focusing on your strengths, right? Guess what you're doing? And your past successes, a positive attitude boosts your confidence. And how does it do this? Well, you see, when you believe in your ability to handle difficult situations, the angst has less control, right? Because you've got total control of what you do then and feel more capable of taking action. Practicing gratitude is a positive attitude. It often involves gratitude, which shifts your focus away from worries and what's going on well in your life. This reduces intensity of angst, which is brilliant because it grounds you in the present moment and helps you see the bigger picture. Penultimately, encouraging action, positivity motivates you to take proactive steps, even if they're only small, right? Because how do you start a journey of 1,000 miles? With the first step. You've got to take the first step, right? And taking action builds momentum. And every little bit of action you take builds more and more momentum. And then resilience and problem solving. When you approach the challenges with optimism, right, you're more likely to think creatively and seek solutions. Right, when I was lying in bed 25 years ago to this day, I've got to admit, right, that I wasn't feeling the most positive that I could be. The fact is, though, that I said to the doctor, can you patch me up because I've got a marathon to run on Sunday? And that's when he looked at me as though I'd lost my marbles and said, Mr. O'Connor, you won't be running any marathon on Sunday. In fact, you might never run one again in your life. True enough, I didn't run it. I did get round it 15 years later. The thing is that if I'd have accepted the what was in his mind something that might not and possibly wouldn't be able to be done by me, then I could have just sat back and thought, okay, well, I'll accept that. It's like blaming someone else. Well, the doctor said I couldn't do it, so I can't do it. No, instead, I looked at how I could adopt and adapt the situation to eventually be able to do the marathon. So in short, a positive attitude helps shift your perspective. And I don't know, I cannot guarantee for you how important or what influence having a positive attitude helped me recover, right? I can say one thing though, I can guarantee one thing, that it certainly didn't do any harm, better than being on the pessimist side. Because it motivates you to take steps that diminish the power of angst, right? And then you adapt, right? Adopting a positive attitude helps you adapt success by fostering a mindset, right, that not only strives for achievement, but also knows how to maintain and build upon it. So here's how a positive mindset works, right? With the adapt, it's embracing growth, right? Because when you embrace growth, a positive mindset encourages continuous self-improvement when you achieve success. You see it as a stepping stone rather than a final destination. You see, which is important because that attitude keeps you open to learning new skills, refining your abilities, and staying motivated to reach your goals. Is this making sense, by the way? So have a think about what I've said so far. How important is it, do you think, to have a positive attitude? And then accentuate, right? Remember I said about accentuating? Well, by accentuating, right, the adaptation process has a powerful effect because it emphasizes the importance of flexibility, growth, and resilience in achieving and maintaining success. And here's how it works, right? It's quite simple. There are a few stages to this. It encourages continuous learning. Right? As a financial advisor, I need to undergo continuous professional development, which means that I'm staying abreast of everything. And today was a perfect day to do it because it was budget day. Now you may think that caused angst, and there were a lot of things mentioned in there that would cause angst for many people. Now, by adopting, adapting, and accentuating, we're going through a process of switching it to change. And I know that when you registered for this, you made a comment that you need this right now. And I want to help you overcome stuff that happens, because it's not just a budget. Every day you can face challenges and opportunities, and it just depends how you wish to process that. So by continuous learning, by accentuating adaptation, you become more aware of the need to constantly learn and evolve, right? Because every day is a school day, and if you don't learn, you're going to stay stuck in the same place, if that makes sense. Making you open to acquiring new skills and knowledge that can further your success. And of course, by accentuating, it builds resilience, because when this is emphasized, you prepare yourself mentally for inevitable changes or challenges that are going to happen. Mentally, the mindset helps build resilience. Right? Having a correct mindset, the mind is so adaptable. Most definitely, it is, and it can deal with anything if you approach it in the right way. Because instead of viewing setbacks as normal parts of the journey rather than obstacles to be feared, you become better equipped to recover and adjust when things don't go as planned. And as sure as eggs are eggs, there will be time when things don't go as planned. And this adaptation prevents feeling stuck and promotes flexibility, because it encourages you to be flexible in your approach. And flexibility is important. Rather than sticking rigidly to one path, right, you remain open to exploring new methods, ideas, or strategies. Now, this flexibility allows you to respond quickly and effectively to changes, which of course enhances your problem-solving skills. Right? See, there's so much behind the words we're talking about so far, and accentuate is a really important part of the process, because using this boosts confidence and self-efficacy. Knowing that adaptation is part of the process can increase your confidence. See, we keep coming back to confidence here, right? And I know that when you might be having a bad day, then things might not feel in the right place to be confident. We're just talking about taking little steps. And if this doesn't all gel with you to start with, well, then play it again, right? Because I really want to help you get over stuff that's holding you back now. Because this belief, this self-belief that you develop in your adaptability enhances your sense of self-efficacy, making you more likely to take risks and pursue opportunities. And just let me get a little bit of refreshment to wet my lips, please. And of course, this prepares you for long-term success. So what do I mean by that? Well, accentuating adaptation ensures that you don't become complacent. Hey, and we've all been there, haven't we? I've been complacent as well, thinking that things will be all right, and then they don't turn out that well. So now I've learned the strategy to use this that I'm sharing with you to keep on top of the game all the time. Because this mindset helps you anticipate future challenges, right? Because by planning correctly, you can find challenges, potential challenges before they even happen, and proactively adjust, leading to sustainable long-term success. So how are we doing so far? You still with me? Great. So I'm just having a look at your comments to see what's going on. That's great. Thank you for your comments so far. Yes, thank you. And it's making sense, Thomas. Cheerfulness in the face of adversity. Fantastic. Yvette, yes, that's right. Thank you. A glass half full makes you focus on what you've achieved and motivates us to continue. Brilliant. Yeah. And life just keeps happening. Of course it does. So the next stage is acceptance. By accepting the importance of adaptation as described already and above, you gain several key results that enhance both your personal and professional life. Increased resilience is a big one, right? Because you become more resilient as you're prepared for setbacks and challenges. Instead of being discouraged by obstacles, you view them as opportunities, right? See, the mindset shift takes place with these 5 A's of transformation. Personal growth and development, embracing adaptation, leads to continuous learning and self-improvement. Enhance problem-solving abilities. This is a big one because you see problems as a bit of a game now, because you focus on the adaptation and how you can overcome them and become more skilled at solving problems creatively rather than getting stuck with them, if that makes sense. And you learn to think outside of the box. Evaluate multiple options and effective solutions which help you navigate difficult circumstances. With a greater flexibility and agility, you accept the importance of adaptation, makes you more flexible and agile, and gives you a stronger sense of confidence and self-efficacy. And if you give me a yes in the box, if this is making sense to you, because that gives me some idea that it's making sense. Thank you. Yeah, and brilliant. Let me just catch up with your comments. And a stronger sense of confidence leads to sustained and long-term success. Understanding acceptance helps you understand how to overcome problems, giving you a positive mindset and reduced anxiety, which is what we want, isn't it? Knowing that adaptation is a normal and essential part of growth can reduce the anxiety, meaning that your overall acceptance and accepting the importance of adaptation results in much more resilient, flexible and growth-orientated life approach. So how do you get caught in these tasks, the 5 A's, angst being the first one? How does angst deliver itself to you? How many times have you felt the feeling of angst? And think of it, right, so what I want you to do now is think of a task in the past that has caused you to feel angst. And now, think of that task, a task you did not usually like doing in the past, and look at how it's changed. And it may not have done that fully yet. The fact is, though, that if you replay this, go over it, then you can learn and discover that by using the 5 strategies to transformation, it can really help you think of things differently and approach things differently. And now what I want to move on to is the 4 stages of trauma. So let's consider the 4 stages of trauma and how you can use these principles to life to avoid being influenced. Right, so the first stage is shock. Right, so this is the first stage, and I don't know about you, but if we go back to when I fell a few hundred feet, and I came to realization, then that was on a Saturday night. On the Monday morning when I'm in hospital and the consultant's with me, and he tells me that I've broken my neck in 2 places. Do you think there was shock? Well, yeah, there was a little bit, just a little bit. So this feeling of shock can be quite debilitating. So let's have a look at the 4 stages of trauma with this metaphor, right? So imagine, right? Let's just come back to this, the 4 stages of trauma. Imagine you're sailing on a calm sea. You can close your eyes if it helps you. Without warning, a massive storm hits, right? And the waves are just crashing violently against your boat, right? So no longer calm seas. It's dark. It's becoming dark with the storm clouds. The waves are crashing, and you're overwhelmed, struggling to get your boat upright. In this moment, you're in shock, maybe feeling disorientated and unable to process what's happening because you may be thinking about the worst, angst. You're looking at all the things that could go wrong and not at all looking on the problem-solving part. And as the storm rages on, you might try, and I use that word reservedly, try to convince yourself that it's not as bad as it seems. And you think it's just a passing wave, things will be calm again soon. And you resist accepting the gravity of the situation and remain in denial, hoping that if you ignore it, you know what, it might go away. As the storm continues and the waves grow stronger and stronger and stronger, your frustration builds. You might feel anger at the ocean, anger at yourself. Why is this happening to me? You think grappling with the unfairness and intensity of the storm. You battle against the waves, fighting your way through. And guess what? Things aren't that easy. Eventually the storm begins to calm and you come to terms with what has happened. You understand that the storm was beyond your control, and now you must navigate the waters as they are not as you wish them to be. You adjust your sails, find a new course, and move forward, accepting the new reality of the sea and the storm. Now, what we went through there is the 4 stages of trauma. Now, the shock element of it presents itself in the fact that you've had a profound impact on your psyche. It doesn't necessarily, I use the metaphor of a storm and the boat, and so you could picture that, but the storm may well present itself in another way, disrupting your sense of safety, stability, and understanding of the world. It's the brain's immediate response to a traumatic or unexpected event, and it acts as a defense mechanism. See, it wants to protect you, the shock, to help you cope with the overwhelming emotions and the information. And here's how it affects the psyche, right? This is how the shock affects it. It's got as a numbing and disconnection. So during shock, you may feel emotionally numb or disconnected from yourself and your surroundings. So when have you experienced that, do you think? I know that I have experienced it in the past until I discovered how to deal with them. And it is only your mind's way of protecting you. And you might feel like you're watching events happening from a distance as well when you're in shock, as if you're not really present there. And then what sets in next is a confusion and disorientation. The shock can cause confusion, difficulty concentrating, and a sense of disorientation. Your thoughts may race or become jumbled, making it hard to process what's happening or making sense of it. This cognitive disruption, right, can feel unsettling and may lead to an inability to focus on anything beyond the immediate event, which causes hyperarousal and anxiety, otherwise known as the fight or flight. You may have heard of the fight or flight. Should I stay or should I go? Flooding the system with stress hormones like adrenaline. This can leave you feeling hyper alert, anxious, or even panicked, right? Panic sets in, and you might have physical symptoms such as a racing heart, trembling physically, and not feeling good, and even difficulty in breathing, all of which heighten a sense of emotional turmoil. Right? And then disassociation. This is in extreme cases, the mind may disassociate itself from the situation as a way to protect itself. And then finally, a temporary suspension of reality. Now, I know that I'm going in quite deep here, but I am going to bring you out the other side to show what you can do to overcome that. And overall shock is the psyche's initial attempt to shield itself from trauma. However, if it's not processed, it can lead to longer-term psychological effects, such as PTSD, anxiety disorders, or depression. And trust me when I say that I have experienced that sort of stuff. And it was only when I went on the journey, where sharing some of these strategies now with you to help you overcome it, that I was able to feel better and approach things differently. Right. So, you see, the next part now, so we've dealt with the shock. What we go into then is denial. Right, so I was told that I'd broken my neck. Right. I was in shock. Then there's the denial phase where you think, well, no, it can't be. Only 2 days earlier, I was running. I could run sub 6 minute miles just continuously forever, or I could run with a 70-pound backpack on my back, and there was no problem whatsoever. So denial of the trauma, right? Although you may think it's protecting you, it can significantly slow down the process and speed of recovery, because it delays the process of confronting and processing the painful emotions and memories associated with the trauma. While denial serves as a protection mechanism in the short term, shielding the individual, or you, for the full impact of the trauma, it ultimately prevents the recovery process. What it does, in essence, is avoiding the emotional processing of the thoughts, feelings, or discussions about the traumatic event, and the avoidance prevents the person from fully processing the trauma, which can cause prolonged stress and anxiety, and suppression of symptoms. And what do we mean by this? Well, denial can lead to suppression of symptoms, which may resurface later, often with greater intensity. And when it's pushed aside, trauma, the emotions and thoughts associated simply don't disappear. They are stored and can manifest itself as physical symptoms or emotional outbursts and things like that. So what is a good process is to actually accept that as a process for recovery. And delayed acceptance and adaptation is a crucial stage in trauma recovery, as it allows the individual to acknowledge the reality of the trauma and begin to rebuild their lives around it. In essence, while denial does, in fact, temporarily shield the person from pain, it prevents the necessary processing of trauma. And the longer the denial persists, the more it delays the recovery, as it creates a barrier to acceptance and emotional work needed for healing. So, we've gone through the shock and denial process, and if you've gone through these, you'll recognise that these are painful. The next part is anger. So we've had shock, denial. Once I recognised that I was in a sticky situation, and by the way, we've not all fallen down a mountain and broken our necks. There have been other stages where I've had traumas for other reasons, and it's not been as life-changing in the way physically. But there can be traumas which are emotional traumas, you know, splitting up from someone, losing your job, or even finding that your business isn't going as well as you want it to. So there's a shock of maybe an invoice not being paid, and then denial, well, how come it's happening? And then we move on to anger now, which is anger. Well, you know what? The anger part can become really debilitating. And what do I mean by that? Well, it consumes so much emotional energy. It distorts perceptions and prevents constructive coping and healing. Anger often arises, right, when reality or a trauma starts to set in. And, you know, you can feel overwhelmed by the injustice, loss, or pain associated with the experience. And if not managed properly, right, anger can take a life of its own and hinder your progress. And here's how, right? I'll give you some examples. And by the way, we're coming to the good stuff in a minute, how to overcome it. Right, fixation on the cause. You know, getting really fixated. Anger can cause a person to become fixated on the source of the trauma, you know, and become so fixated, whether it's another person, an event, or even themselves. You know, you can be angry with yourself at times. Give me a comment and yes in the box if that's happened to you. Right, so this fixation can lead to rumination, right? What's rumination? Great question. Rumination is where you just keep going around in your head with the same things, same stuff, different day, and you replay the trauma or focus intensely on the feelings of blame, resentment, and injustice. You know, because it's, as we talked earlier, it's so much easier to blame someone else or something else or a situation that you had no control over. What you do have is total control of how you react, which is what we're going to come on to in a second. Because then doing this can lead to a process of isolation and a lack of social support, which are critical for recovery. Then guess what? Guess what as well? It's a self-destructive behaviour, anger. I mean, how many times have you had a successful outcome from being angry? Well, if you're anything like me, zilch, zero, nada. Because anger that is not properly channeled can turn inward, right, leading to self-destructive behaviours. Thank you. And by the way, when you hear the pinging, these are comments that are being made, so thank you for your support on this, and just keep them coming in. This might manifest itself as self-blame, self-harm, substance abuse, or other risky actions meant to cope with or numb anger. These behaviours can and do create problems and such health issues as damaged relationships, further complicating and prolonging the recovery. So it's not all doom and gloom, because now we'll be coming on to the next stage in a second, which is the salvation, if you like. And before we do, the other part of anger is its physical and psychological exhaustion. It can put the body in a state of heightened arousal, keeping stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline elevated. This can lead to physical symptoms such as headaches, high blood pressure, fatigue, and other stress-related conditions. Psychologically, the constant state of agitation and frustration can drain emotional energy. And you know what? It's pretty debilitating. And resistance to vulnerability and emotional processes. What I mean by that is anger can act as a protective shield, just the same as shock and denial. And while anger may feel empowering or safer, it can block deeper emotional processing. And this resistance prevents the individual from fully exploring and healing from the trauma. Right, so distorted perception and decision making as well. Right, it can cloud judgment, it can stop you from making the right decisions. Right, so guess what? In summary, anger is a natural and valid response to trauma. Right, it is acceptable and it's understandable, and it does happen. Right. The fact is that if it becomes all-consuming and you never get through the anger process, And left unmanaged, it can create obstacles to recovery. And that's why you see so many people, and it took me years, right, to get over this, you know. It was someone else's fault, it wasn't my fault. And then I just started to change the mind shift. And when I went on my journey, which has now been, whoa, what is it? Well, since the incident, 25 years, it took me a while before I started looking at how can I become an accredited master coach? How can I look at my career as a financial advisor, an independent financial advisor, rebuild myself, because I've been a financial advisor, independent financial advisor since 1988 when I left the regular army. It was only when I joined the territorial army, or now known as a reservist, that I had the incident. So the thing was that I was at weekends and a few times a year for prolonged periods, I was a soldier. The rest of the time I was a civilian. And the anger in my career being threatened by the incident where I injured my neck and I couldn't move, I couldn't see people, and I even had difficulty just simple communication, was really debilitating to me. And then what did I find then that came next that was transformational, really? It was acceptance, right? This is the fun part, because I did promise you, because during the process so far on the 4 stages of trauma, you may have gone back to situations where we touched on something that felt a bit raw to you, maybe. And if it did, well, here's the good part now, right? So acceptance can be liberating. And after experience the emotional shock, denial and anger of trauma, because it represents a turning point, the acceptance is, yeah, okay, that happened. So what can I learn from that? You've heard it before, haven't you? What can I learn from that? Or how can we do better next time? That's another way of putting it. But what can we learn from it? The learning of which will help us transform our lives. And it's a point where an individual begins to reclaim a sense of control, peace, and freedom. Rather than resisting or being overwhelmed by the trauma, acceptance allows for a new perspective. Right, so there are a couple of stages to the acceptance. Release of emotional burden. So when you reach acceptance, you're acknowledging the reality of the trauma without resisting or fighting against it. Because it happened, right? Like I did tell you that how to overcome when stuff happens, or SH1T happens, how to overcome it. So the acceptance of it is the release of the resistance, which can feel like a weight lifted off your shoulders. You know, how many times have you thought, oh, right, okay, so, okay, that happened, and what can I learn from it? Or you may think, how can I deal with it better next time? However you process it, once you've done that, isn't there a sense of relief? And by no longer denying or being consumed by the anger, you can free yourself from the emotional burdens that have been holding you back, making space for other emotions such as peace, relief, and hope. Right now, I've got two takes on hope. Hope can be a little bit wishy-washy, because when you hope for something, then it may or may not happen. It's about focus. So I like to use focus connected with hope, focusing on what you really want and reclaiming a sense of control. That's where the focus comes in. Trauma can make you feel powerless often, as it involves events beyond control or seemingly. Now, on the one hand, something that happens externally may well be beyond your control. The way you react and process it is totally within your control, if that makes sense. Like, I had no control, for instance, over that gale force wind blowing and that gust of wind blowing me off the top of the mountain. What I did have control of, and not immediately, by the way, because I did go through shock, denial, anger for quite some time. But it was once I accepted it and processed the information differently that I was able to recognize that I did have some control. So trauma can make you feel powerless, but once you've got acceptance, doesn't mean agreeing with it. You don't have to agree with what happened. It just means that you're, or condoning what happens. It just means that you're recognizing that the past cannot be changed. And this shift allows you as an individual to focus on what you can control, how you can respond, how they take care of themselves, and how they move forward. This sense of empowerment can be deeply liberating, as it restores a feeling of agency over their lives, and when you use this process, over your life. Integration of trauma into one's story. Right, I can tell my past in a story now, and I feel okay with it, because it involves integrating the trauma into one's life narrative, rather than see it as a separate, overwhelming force. I recognise that it did happen. So what can you recognise in something that may have been traumatic to you in the past and can be changed using this process? Because when you can accept and understand the trauma as part of your life, but not an entirety of your life, then you can start to build a new story that incorporates this experience in a way that makes you stronger and more resilient. Does that make sense? Give me a yes in the comments, please. And this can lead to a personal growth, greater self-awareness, and a sense of peace with the past. And something that's equally as important as the other parts is emotional and cognitive clarity. So what do I mean by this? Well, I'll just take a sip of this. So acceptance helps clear the emotional fog that often accompanies shock, denial and anger, because that can just come down and cloud your judgment, as I've already talked about. It allows you for a more balanced and realistic perspective, freeing the person, from the constant mental and emotional turmoil of resisting reality. And this clarity can create room for self-reflection, positive decision-making, and ability to engage with life in a more mindful and intentional way, meaning that you have freedom to experience joy and meaning again when someone is trapped in the earlier stages of trauma. Their ability to experience positive emotions and find meaning in life can be blocked. So the acceptance is really important, because it breaks down these barriers, opening the doors to experiencing joy, connection, and fulfillment again. And by no longer being weighed down by the trauma, you can become free to pursue activities, relationships, and goals that bring happiness and meaning back into your life. And how cool would that be? And this provides a pathway for healing and forgiveness, because it is a prerequisite for forgiveness. That's what acceptance is. And whether that's for forgiving others or oneself. While forgiveness isn't always necessary for everyone's healing, for many it can be a liberating step. Letting go of resentment, and I love the film Frozen, let it go. I'm not going to sing it because I'm not that great a singer. But I want you to think about letting go of resentment and blame can be a profound sense of relief and allow for closure. This forgiveness combined with acceptance helps an individual move forward without being tied to the past. And it gives you greater resilience and growth, reaching a place that enables for personal growth. And finally, acceptance, in essence, is a shift from fighting against what happened to embracing a new reality and building a meaningful future from it. It allows for the emotional and psychological freedom needed to heal and live life more fully. So, what example of the 4 stages of trauma can you think of? How can you go back maybe in the past and think about how it affected you? The shock, anger, denial, and acceptance. How did it affect you then? And what can you do differently now? So just think about that for a second, please. What can you think differently now? And while you're thinking about that, I just want to check the comments that you've been making. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just move on to the next part now about dream stealers. Now, what do you think dream stealers are? Well, 8 things that dream stealers do is keep you at their level. They love to do that because it's so liberating for them. So they can limit your development. They stop you from doing what you're capable of, what you're truly capable of. Remember, the doctor or the consultant surgeon who wanted to manage my expectations. But sometimes when people do that, dream stealers maybe, as you could class them as, doing that can put you in a, especially if they're a professional, like a surgeon, a medical professional, or a legal professional, then that can often put you in a cocoon, stop you from growing because you believe that's the only way. Have you ever heard the term get a second opinion? Because someone else may have an opinion that is totally different and think, well, actually, yeah, you can do it. So they can also justify failure. Dream stealers, you know, oh, I didn't make it this time, so that's not to worry. We can still get on with it. Avoid success. Dream stealers, right, when they don't succeed, they can blame someone else. They can justify the failure, which means that they're not going to get where they want to be. Does that make sense? Then avoid the unknown. They have a fear of the unknown, so that means that they end up not doing anything because they're so fearful of the unknown. And then accept mediocre. Dream stealers often accept mediocre as the only way and live in doom and gloom. You know, justifying that doom and gloom is the only way, and that's it. There's no other way. So what I want you to think about is how you can change it, because by using it properly, it can really make things different for you. So let's have a look at what is the alternative to the dream stealers, listening to the dream stealers. Well, you could dream big, dream massive, you know, because by dreaming what you really want to do, you can achieve anything because there's 7 stages of dreaming big. Because remember, I've taken you on a bit of a roller coaster so far, and you may not have recognized it, but during the times where we were looking at trauma and how it can affect you, and the shock, denial, anger, and then acceptance, because I brought it out the other side. Look at the dream stealers, what they do. Now we're going to have a look at the 7 stages of dreaming big. Setting possible goals. Right? I don't know whether you've ever heard of this, but and you know what? I've got to be honest. I cannot just think about who came up with it, but setting possible goals and then grow into the person you need to be to achieve them, if that makes sense. Get yourself a great mentor. So set in your mind what you want and get yourself a great mentor or coach. And talking to a coach, engage with a good coach. Right, a mentor is, the difference between a mentor and a coach is that a mentor is someone who's done it, and a coach is someone who may not have done it, but knows how to do it technically, so they can give you good guidance. So if you get a good coach and mentor, sometimes you can get a combined coach and mentor, someone who's really good at telling you how to do it, and someone who's done it as well. Grow into the person you need to become to get the impossible goal. Leave behind any anxiety and guilt, because that's not going to serve you that well, because they're negative emotions, if that makes sense. Work smart. right? Working hard's okay, but find shortcuts as well. Finding a shortcut, right, isn't illegal, unless it is illegal. That's a contradiction in terms, I suppose. But working smart is just being able to cut out the long journey. You know, if you were going from A to B, you'd like to get the quickest way from A to B rather than going meandering, which is something that I talk about in Pathfinder, about how to set goals and achieve them. And it's about goal getting rather than goal setting. And then set completion dates. Because when you set completion dates, right, you've got something that you want to work by. And you know what? Finally, make sure you implement these 7 stages into your life now. Because when you do that, you can really, really go forward. Let's just have a look at those again. Set impossible goals. Do not be afraid of setting impossible goals. Get yourself a great mentor. Engage with a good coach. Grow into the person you need to become to achieve the goals. Leave behind any anxiety and guilt because it's not productive. Work smart and then set completion dates. And as I've said, make sure you implement these 7 stages into your life now. So just have a think about that and what you can do. So how useful would it be to know the anti-stress formula? You know, when you're feeling a bit stressful and you get a formula that can just go, wow, yeah, that's how to do it. Well, there it is. The formula is replace A with A, and that equals success. So what do we mean by this? Right, well, replace angst, right? Get shut of angst, right? And replace it by adopt, adapt, accentuate, and acceptance. Because when you do this, then it removes angst because you just go straight to the acceptance phase quickly. And the more you practice it, the angst just turns to acceptance straight away. And you might think, oh yeah, of course it does, Joe. Well, I can guarantee that when I get a problem, right, and I'm not saying you will never feel angst, right? Before I started this presentation, for instance, I used the angst as a positive and adrenaline to get me to acceptance that I wanted to deliver something great for you. And that's where I wanted to get to. And the acceptance is that it helped me feel a lot better. So I went from angst to acceptance pretty quickly. And remember the joeteams.com which you can't see really, but it is there. So remember to visit the joeteams.com. And what are the benefits you can get using joeteams.com? Well, the benefits are that you get access to lots and lots of resources. Lots of resources that can help you. So visit joeteams.com, and for the price of less than 2 cups of coffee per month, there are lots of resources in there. There's also free resources. If you go to the top left, and you'll see the content. If you click on the content, there's lots of stuff in there that is my gift to you. So remember, when we started is how should your successful day start? Well, the way it should start is by making your bed, right? And you might not need to make it with the hospital corners. And the purpose of making your bed is, and it was in the military, is no matter what sort of stuff you go through during the day, you've always got a place of safety, security, and comfort to come back to. And as I said, I do have a special offer for you, a gift, which was the Pathfinder Ultimate Success System, which you can see all as being behind me. Now, if you go on joeteams.com, or actually do the QR code, if you look at this QR code, you can, the one here, just click on the QR code, and on the promo code, if you put RV25, because it's 25 years since my incident, I'm giving a special price of a 25% reduction in the price. And then you can, once you buy that, invest in that to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. You also have the opportunity to join the O group, which is where I I do lots and lots of stuff with the members so I can help them get better results. Oh, and by the way, there is a guarantee with this. After 12 months, if the Pathfinder program has not helped you change your life in some way, you can have a money back guarantee. No quibble, money back guarantee. And I did promise you one more thing, which was attitude, and where that black quadrant is, that's belief, change and success. With the right attitude and belief, you can make the changes in your life to get the success you desire. And finally, what I want you to do is just one more thing. It's time to experience some mind magic, if you like. Think of a time, right, where you used to have problems, and now using the strategies that we've gone through, look to the future and think about, once you've got the acceptance and you've got all these strategies to help you get to where you want to be, whether that's from the 5 A's, where we look at the different ways from angst through to acceptance, whether we look at the 4 stages of trauma, and then right through to the dream stealers, and how you can turn the dream stealers around and what they say to you, right? That can make a really big difference to your life. So now that you've got that in your mind, just think about the problems that you used to have and the way that you're processing that now. Just take a moment to think about that. And a testimonial from Tom Burgess, someone who has experienced the Pathfinder, and the O group and the way it all works. It's simple to apply, easy to use, value for money. It's transformational when applied. Right, now there's the biggie. The O group and community chat facility is fantastic, because what you do is there's no distractions from any outside social media. It's in a community which is controlled by the members, and special access is given when it's passcode protected. So the only people that can go in there are the people in the members, and of course yours truly. And something that Tom said, which is very interesting: if you do not lean into it and do the work, it becomes an expensive mug coaster if you do not apply it. And what he meant by that was somewhere to put your mug, right? And that's not what it's about. It's about using it so you can get the best results possible. And finally, I did promise you a gift, right? Here's your free gift. If you use that QR code, that will take you to the Think You Can Know versus Know You Can ebook from me. There are lots of exercises in it, and there's no cost, no strings attached. I just want to help you achieve your goals. So until we meet again, right, this has been an extract from the Pathfinder O group, and if you want to learn more and discover more, you can visit the Transformer website, email info@thetransformer, visit joeteams.com, and the phone number's there as well. So until we meet again, I want you to have a brilliant day. Thank you.